Okay, let's try this part 2. Sorry, I got interrupted while I was recording. So, we were talking about the growing middle class of people that are wanting to preserve their own wealth away from England. So, again, think about these two ideologies, these two different theories that historians have put forth. And you guys are going to get to look at these historian interpretations today and decide for yourself what you think, which theory you agree with more. So, I am going to pop over to our Declaration of Independence sources. So you have this hard copy in front of you, and you can follow along while I read, and then feel free to pause me if you need to or reread these yourself, but I'll go ahead and read through both of these right now. So, historian interpretation number 1 is from The Ideological Origins of the American Revolution by Bernard Bailey. So, he wrote this in 1967, and here's what he has to say as to why the Founding Fathers wrote the Declaration. The Declaration of Independence represents the colonists' deepest fears and beliefs. The colonists believed they saw a clear pattern in the events that followed 1763. They believed they saw an evil and deliberate conspiracy to crush liberty in America. They saw evidence of this conspiracy in the Stamp Act and in the Coercive Acts. They also believed that America was destined to play a special role in history. They believed that America would become the foundation of a great and mighty empire, the largest the world ever saw, to be founded on such principles of liberty and freedom, both civil and religious. The colonists believed that England was trying to enslave them, and that they should use all the power which God has given them to protect themselves. So there's historian interpretation number 1. Let's move on to number 2. This is from A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn from 1980. That should sound familiar to you, as we've already done a couple chapter readings out of his Young People's History version of this book. So here's what Zinn says. It seemed clear to the educated, upper-class colonists that something needed to be done to persuade the lower class to join the revolutionary cause, to direct their anger against England. The solution was to find language inspiring to all classes, specific enough in its listing of grievances to fill people with anger against the British, vague enough to avoid class conflict, and stirring enough to build patriotic feelings. Everything the Declaration of Independence was about, popular control over governments, the right of rebellion and revolution, fury at political tyranny, economic burdens and military attacks, was well suited to unite large numbers of colonists and persuade even those who had grievances against one another to turn against England. Some Americans were clearly omitted from those united by the Declaration of Independence: Indians, black slaves, and women. So there you have it, two very different historian interpretations of why the Declaration was written. Up here, Bernard Bailey takes a more positive, idealistic reason as to why the Founding Fathers wrote the Declaration, and then Howard Zinn kind of takes a more pessimistic view that the Founding Fathers were kind of selfish and wrote it for themselves and left out specific groups of people within the Declaration. So what you guys are going to do next is turn to the next page, and you will see you have this graphic organizer to fill out. You're going to take the information from both historians and kind of summarize what their claims are, what their arguments are as to the reason for our question, which is, why did the Founding Fathers write the Declaration? So this gives you a little hint on how to start off your claim for historian number 1. It says the Founding Fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence because, and then you need to finish that sentence. What's the reasoning? How can you summarize what historian number 1 said about why the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence? So you'll finish that sentence. And then over here in this box, the evidence box, is where you will find a direct quote, at least 2, to support what you wrote in the claim box. So the claim box is your own words summarizing what they say about this issue. And the evidence box is where you're going to find a direct quotation from historian number 1 to support what you said in the claim box. And then you'll do the same thing for number 2. And you can start your claim off with the same sentence starter as you see up here in historian number 1. So go ahead and pause me and finish that. Okay, now that you have taken a look at what historians think about the Declaration, I want you to personally think about the Declaration of Independence and what it means. So if you take a look at this part of your packet, this is the beginning of the American Declaration of Independence. I'm going to read it to you, and then you're able to take a look at some of these words and what they might mean. There's a whole vocabulary section down here. And then what I want you to do is put this paragraph in your own words. So think about what these words truly mean and try to make sense of them in your own words. So again, I'll read this beginning paragraph. Feel free to read it a second time yourself or to go back and listen to it again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. All right, so go ahead and put that information into your own words. Pause me and work on this. Okay, now that you're back, this is the last part of your assignment. What I want you guys to do for this last section is to take a look at the list of grievances that was included in the Declaration of Independence. So these grievances are like complaints, things that the colonists felt England was doing wrong, specifically the king. So Thomas Jefferson, in the Declaration of Independence, he lists all of these complaints, all these grievances out, saying, here's why we want to be independent. These are the things that you have done wrong to us. So you guys are going to take a look at them. And what you're going to decide as you're looking at them is, does this grievance pertain only to the rich and powerful? And if so, then you're going to write an O next to that grievance if you feel like it would only affect people who are rich and powerful. If you feel like it's something that would affect all of the colonists, regardless of how much money they had, then you're going to write an A for all. And if you really have no idea who would be affected, you can write a question mark. So let's do the first one together. The first one says, he has refused to pass and forbidden to governors to pass important and necessary laws. Now, I'm thinking since the king is refusing to pass laws and he doesn't let other people in the colonies pass important and necessary laws, everyone is affected by laws, regardless of how much money they make. Everyone has to follow the law. Just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you don't have to. So I would think that this is a complaint that affects all of the colonists. So I would put an A for this first one. So go through that thought process for each of these, and then there's just a couple of questions to answer down here at the bottom. If you have questions, let me know. I'll come around and help you. Bye.